Hey, welcome everybody. It's Prodromou, and I've got my good friend Barry Kleiman with us. We got met Barry in the Titans Accelerator Mastermind, actually Brian Kurtz's group, and we've both been members for 3, 4, 5, I think 4 years for me,
Oh,
year
five.
five.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Barry.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Ted. Thanks for having me. I've obviously looking forward to this greatly, and anytime I get to talk to you, I'm appreciative because it's always fun and interesting and insightful.
And we have a connection from, gosh, so 30 years ago now that we didn't know
Shush,
about.
shush. Yeah, tell that story.
So we worked at Cellular One. I went to work there in 1989 when, I don't know, cell phones were built into your car or a brick. And we only had a few thousand subscribers at the time because it was so expensive. And I was the IT guy. And it turns out my boss was somebody that you placed at Cellular One, Les Shinazawa.
Yep, crazy. Yeah, and we didn't know each other then, but we are literally 1 degree, not 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, one.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just remarkable. And I joke about this with you because but when you talk about the brick, this was my database back in those days. It's a Rolodex for anybody keeping score at home that doesn't know. It's full of cards, and on one of these cards was Les's name and the Cellular One number. Um, was it South Airport Boulevard?
Yeah, we were different,
Right.
couple of different locations down
Yeah,
there.
I kind of remember that. But anyway,
But
keep
that's
going.
how we used to do business. If you earned our trust, you got to go into our Rolodex. And you were one of the lucky 100 or 200 people that were your network.
Yep, yep. It was the days when networking involved really talking to people and connecting with people in real time in a phone call or something of that nature, pre-email. We're dating ourselves, but it's still true, and
Kind of going full circle back to that, actually.
well, I was about to say, because you know me, that's a huge part of what I believe. I hate the word networking. I love the word connecting because that's what we had to do. You know,
Right.
you, you and I still write to less randomly, and of course, scads of other people. So yes, yeah, so very ironic story for you and I, but we didn't know it until we met Brian, so we have Brian to thank.
Right.
And
Another connections.
another connection. Yes, that's exactly right.
So you were sharing his concept with we've both been married forever. And you kind of have this concept called husbandry.
Yeah,
I
uh,
love your story about how you proposed to your wife. You want to tell that?
sure. I mean, I'm an open book, and the husbandry thing is kind of an ironic name, as it were, or an interesting story as well, at least to me. So yes, I've been married. This was July, whatever it is, 24th maybe or something like that. Uh, I've been married for last month for 45 years.
Congratulations.
And I faithfully married for 45 years. And I proposed to my wife on New Year's Eve, 1978, bridging into 79 at the Winterland, which is a music venue since closed. In fact, it was the closing of the Winterland, the last night of the Winterland. And it was at the Grateful Dead who played that night at the Winterland, and they played the closing. Bill Graham, rest in peace, came down at midnight on a motorcycle hung from a wire. I mean, it's pretty bold, and Happy New Year. And then I don't remember. I think the Grateful Dead opened the show with Sugar Magnolia and the balloons flying everywhere and so forth and so on. And I had no inkling that I was going to propose to my wife that night. We had been living together for a couple of years. I'd actually known my wife for many years before, never romantically. And uh, I actually quote two lines from the song from the Grateful Dead, but when I propose that there's a line from the Grateful Dead, I don't know, maybe it was the roses.
Yep.
There's a song, but also there's another line from a Grateful Dead song that says, "Once in a while you get shown the light." in the strangest of places if you look at it right. And somewhere during that New Year's Eve, not when the ball came down, but a couple hours, Grateful Dead are notorious for playing a long, long time. Anyway, somewhere um, in there, I got shown the light and I proposed to my wife. And here we are, 40, whatever, some odd years later. And I tell my kids, I've got 2 kids and 4 grandkids now, and I tell my kids, because there's a recording of that show, and I do remember the song when I decided to propose. I tell my kids, if you listen closely during that song, you can hear your father proposing to your mother. And so, yeah, look, it is a fun story. It's got some little romanticism of it in itself, right? Grateful Dead, because I've been to many shows. I play music. I'm nowhere near that level, of course, but I love to play and I love music. And so, yeah, so that's my story and I'm sticking to it. And it is kind of a fun story to tell and a completely honest story. So there's some little romantic, not necessarily romantic, but kind of a romantic or fun story to tell. And I do quote song lyrics all the time. So yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. And yeah, if anybody wants to listen to that night, I can then share with you the song where it was if you're really dying to hear me propose. We were sitting backstage. The Blues Brothers played earlier that night.
Wow.
My wife was in the record business at the time, working for a little local company called Berserkly Records. So we had access to some backstage thing. I met John Belushi. I met Dan Aykroyd. It was quite a night, actually. Bill Graham served lox and bagel breakfast at 4 a.m. at the Winterland. It was quite a iconic event. But anyway, that's my story, Ted, and I'm sticking to it for anybody
All
else.
right. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So how does
So
this lead to this husbandry?
yeah. So um, in January of this year, I was down in the desert in Palm Springs. Actually, my kid brother comes out every year to visit. I don't get to see my East Coast family enough. I'm from Philly originally, and we were doing whatever we were doing in a house that we rented down in Palm Springs, and something happened, and it took me off path one and onto path two. And my wife asked do something and I wanted to do something else, but I realized the priority was to get done what she had asked to get done. And it diverted me from something else I would had more in mind. And I just said aloud, my kid brother's not married. And I said to him aloud, now that's good husbandry. I don't even remember what I did. I don't. But the word came out of my mouth and I said, wow, husbandry. And, one of our mentors, the aforementioned Brian Kurtz, has this adage, I guess.
Yeah.
The person who names the game owns the game. And it's not like I was looking to own husbandry, but I did realize, that it is a very important concept.
Hmm.
Again, you're married for 43 years.
Oh, we've been together that long and
Okay, but okay,
38 years married.
yeah, either way. So you're a long time, right?
Yeah.
And you know, a key word in my life, I just talked about it, is connection. I think, I think we've been lacking connection, in general in the world.
Hmm.
And I think it permeates into many, many levels from local, neighborhoods could be better if we were more connected to things and on and on and on and on. And, we got this big work networking and cloud this and cloud that,
Right.
you know, but to me, the ability to, connect mano y mano
Hmm.
and to have the opportunity to connect in real time.
Yeah.
I mean, look at you and I. It's a great story, and I'm grateful for it, right? And so forth. So anyway, I just start to think about husbandry, and then I start to write about it. I made all these notes about it, and it's something I am keen on, and will write. I will write more about it. But what I decided what it was, love and luck and patience
Hmm.
and commitment to a cause. And that's kind of the tagline, love, of course, and some luck, because I don't know that I'd be married if I didn't marry my wife. I can't assuredly say I would be. So there's some luck involved. And yet I knew my wife for years before, but we were never romantically inclined. So again, once in a while
Yeah.
you get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right. And so there's luck to that. And then of course commitment.
Mhm.
You got to make it work. And you know, all you can do is what you can do. The other side has to do what they do, right? So you have to have your own commitment. And then, of course, the commitment to the cause for me is connection. So I really am committed, to that connection. I read a quote a long time ago. His book is back there, Dr. Covey. The greatest gift a father can give his kids is to love their mother. And that quote guided me along these years, and helped me quite a bit. And so anyway, yeah, to me, husbandry is a little bit of an art form.
Yeah.
I really do think that, it's not just a paint by numbers. I don't think it works that way at all,
You
because
say it's
we're
like the
all.
yin and yang of holding on and letting
Yeah,
go.
that's right. Yeah, later I said it's the art and craft. I said it's much like carpentry or pottery, and when it's demonstrated at its highest form, it's practiced by the yin and yang of holding on and letting go.
Yeah.
I don't know. You tell me, Ted. You're together with your wife, whether married or not. I mean, does that quote resonate with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because there's times where you're like, need your partner. Other times where like, I need my own time.
right.
The yin and yang.
And understand the same of the other side, right?
Right.
Like, and so anyway, yeah. So I thank you. I mean, I say it's the foundation is rooted in trust,
Yeah.
and trust first of yourself, and then of course commitment to connecting greater and something greater than just yourself.
Right.
So these are all the notes I wrote about it, and so when you and I talked about Epic Encore and some of the things that you're hoping to do, I was really excited to talk about it because none of us are getting any younger, and of course, to set a model, whether it's for our own kids and or anybody else in the community. I told you a funny story just a minute ago when we were going to do this. I went out last night and bought a shoji screen. I'm not using it right now for a Zoom background, but it was a young woman she told me actually she was maybe even going to listen in when we make this live. But when I told her about what I was doing, she wanted to listen to it. And she was like 30 years old. But I think she could tell, my enthusiasm and my commitment, as it were, to this concept was kind of palpable. And
Mhm.
she's thinking of getting married, and she wanted to hear what it was like. So my point being, modeling behavior, I think is important. All coming back to connecting in real time. I met a gentleman. I was at a basketball tryout maybe a month ago, and I met a gentleman there who happens to live over near you or in Mill Valley anyway, on your side of the bay. Uh, and I told him that you can't keep score in husbandry.
Right.
You can't, because that means that you're looking for somebody to lose.
Tit for tat.
Can't do it, because then somebody's going to lose, and that's not the idea. The
Right.
idea is to make it work. Whatever. My personal brand website says share the ball. I've coached basketball for decades. That's the way I teach the game. That's the way I think life needs to be lived. Share the ball. Kind of doesn't matter who gets credit as long as the ball moves, as long as we get a basket.
Right.
So you can't keep score. Finger pointing and casting blame is not husbandry.
Yeah.
You know, Intelligent conversation, sure, but finger pointing, it's um,
You kind of see that in sports a lot. Like if one person tries to dominate the team, it's like, no, when everybody just plays together, everybody wins.
good thing happens when the ball moves, you
Yeah.
know, and so on and on, what's the guy's name? I quote him often, Chris Voss, the
Hmm.
hostage negotiator, says, in negotiation, everybody has to walk away from it feeling like they've won.
Yeah.
And course, Chris did this at a, I don't know if it's a harder level, Ted, or an easier level, hostage negotiating than husbandry, but doesn't matter. It's still the concept is the same. It's human interaction,
Right.
right? And so
You have to feel like you came away with winning. Everybody
yes,
wants to win.
correct. I mentioned it to this gentleman. His name was Mike something or other, and he said to me, he actually started to tear up. Seriously, he said, Barry, I think I keep score too much. And it was kind of telling, for me, because, particularly then, I've never talked about it in an open forum like this will wind up to be. But the more I talked about it, the more I realized what a potentially important, I guess, topic it is. Not because I'm talking about it, but the concept overall, right? Another Chris Voss comment. If anybody doesn't know who Chris Voss is, I recommend his book, Never Split the Difference. But he says that your communication system is perfectly designed to give you the outcomes you're getting.
Mhm.
And it's a really, I mean, it's such a genius comment that Chris made. And he's not casting stones necessarily at yours or mine. He's simply saying that your communication system, good or bad, is
Right.
perfectly designed to give you the outcomes you're getting. So again, in husbandry, you've got to be hyper aware of your communication system.
So kind of like you're stressed, and when you had young kids, how everybody's running around with their head cut off, and
Yeah,
you have a disagreement with your wife. How do you step back and diffuse it without saying the wrong thing?
yeah. I mean, there's a time and a place, and you find a better time and a better place to make a comment. And of course, the comment better be one that has empathy attached on both sides. No finger pointing, no keeping score. Because these are the things that get incendiary. And
Yep.
it's, of course, people disagree all the time about everything. But the messaging has to be, look, I, you know, I want it to work out, but all you have control over too. And by the way, just context, I am by no means suggesting that wifery is any different than husbandry.
Right.
I'm not. Not going there. I'm just saying that you and I and anybody else who's listening who happens to be a husband or a husband to be, that's what you have control over. Your side of the equation, but you have to honor it and optimize it and for this greater good.
Yeah.
So anyway, these are all the things. Again, the common denominator for it all is commitment to a cause with a hyper focus on connection, real connection, like wanting to connect, to the other side. Perfection escapes us all, you know,
Hmm.
and I was a headhunter for a zillion years. I used to write reference letters for people, and that was always how I prefaced it. If I wrote about you, perfection escapes us all, but if you need somebody who can blah blah blah, then Ted's your guy, and so forth. Not saying he's perfect. Um, you know, what
I
did
think
Mark
that's
Twain?
part of it. You need to admit that nobody's perfect. People make mistakes. So don't punish people by saying the wrong thing to them when we've done something wrong.
Exactly. I mean, that's back to scorekeeping, right? That's back to finger pointing. It's a one-way ticket to nowhere.
Yeah.
No, nobody wants to be told they're stupid or dumb or you should have done this or God, you could. You know, you and I joke about this as it relates to our consulting, but all you can really do is point out to people that it's ultimately up to them,
Yeah.
to make decisions for themselves. Going back to your communication system, Chris Voss. What did Mark Twain say? Something like, "There's a good side and bad side to most people, and in accordance with your own character and disposition, you'll bring out one of them,
Yeah.
and the other will remain a sealed book to you." So that's the idea. You bring out the best, and why would you want to bring out the worst?
Right.
Kind of a thing. And so anyway, I think the footprint of husbandry has an opportunity to solve problems even beyond in your own home, in your own basement, in my own home office, and beyond. I do think modeling behavior, has roots in other parts of the community, and if you can just get that message out there, then maybe someone else reexamines how they are out in the community. And in some ways, I mean, look, maybe it's Pollyannish, maybe, but anything any of us can do to have some sort of return to a level of civility
Yeah.
that would benefit everybody, share the ball again.
Hmm.
I'm working on a project right now with some friends, and it relates to basketball and bringing cultural teams together, different colleges from different cultures and whatever. But at the moment, the tagline is called "Share the Rock." Rock is a euphemism for basketball, but it's the earth. We got one of these earths, and if we don't figure out how to share it, we're on a downslide. So anyway, so I do think it has roots in that, and I appreciate you speaking with me about it. It's obviously something I'm passionate about because again, we're older, but we do have people who look to us in many ways, and not to mention to get through every one of our own days
Yeah.
in our own homes. So, what is that expression, Ted? Ted, think globally, act locally. So,
Right. Yeah.
so anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I'm sorry to ramble, but please
Oh,
ask
that's okay. So I have a
anything,
question.
please.
The divorce rate always used to say 50%, 50%, you know, get divorced. I don't hear that anymore. I hear more that like millennials aren't getting married, but they're raising families. But husbandry would still play a role if they want to keep that relationship together, right?
Oh, look, 100%. I mean, I remember what I said. To me, the overarching ideal principle, whatever you want to call it, is connection.
Hmm.
So you don't need to put a label on it, but the goal, I'll ask you a question. You're a smart guy and you were in this business actually for a long time as an IT whiz. What's the opposite of connection?
Disconnection.
Hello. Right. So there's no partial pregnancy, right? I mean, and so that's the way it is to me in connection. So, I think marriage is cool, but am I going to sit here and draw a line in the sand and put a, label that you have to? I'm not that archaic, although I do think it adds some level of tangibility to things. I do. However, if you focus on connection, because as you just said, the opposite is disconnect.
Yeah.
And this is what I think matters the most to me in my life, and as everything I do and try to do, I should say. I'm no, as Springsteen said, I'm no hero. That's understood. I'm not, but I do have this overarching belief that if we share the ball and try to connect with others the best, some you can't.
Right.
Again, I don't know if I'd be married if I didn't marry my wife. I don't know that, but I still would want to try to connect with people, and I try to take the opportunity to do it wherever. Anyway, so I think that that's what I would say to people: just at least commit to the connection.
We're starved for connection. Since the pandemic, when everybody has isolated, people want to reconnect with people. Like we're starting to go back to local networking events that we hadn't gone to for years.
You just went to one last night, right? You were mentioning to me, and as you know, I'm trying to put one on an intentional dinner just to get people to connect in real time. And I have this adage. Look, I'm a 74 now. I used to be a 73-year-old kid from a Philly playground. Now I'm a 74-year-old kid from a Philly playground. But I think the world changed for the worse. And this is anecdotal to what you just said. When we lost the meritocracy of the playground. In the playground, you actually had to go out and find kids to play with
Yeah.
and connect to them in real time and learn, the difference between I grew up in a very lower middle class neighborhood in Philly. Even in my playground, we had Irish Catholic, Roman Catholic, Protestant, but nobody could call anybody a name, a slur of their race, because that just never flew. And you knew that was not cool. And so then you learned. And so, fast forward all those years to COVID and all that kind of stuff, it was the same thing. We just lost the tangibility of face to face. And so we have all these people on social media calling people names. You'd never do that in the playground because somebody, and I'm not saying I was the toughest guy because I wasn't, but you learn somebody's going to kick your ass if you don't figure out how to interact. And so then, you know, you interact. What is that line from Elvis Costello? What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're right, we did. And so this is why I said I'm so grateful for what you're doing. I really am.
Yeah, we really need to get this connection back because human nature, we need human connection.
Human nature is connection. It's not, how many followers do you have?
I'm trying to prove to my wife all my friends aren't virtual. They're actually some local.
Well, I'd be honored, for us all to get together one day, and I would then prove the same. And we even proved Mike is real, So
Yeah.
we won't mention your last name, Mike. So, uh, but no, I look again. It's great, and I just, this is not planned or anything like that, but so I have a nonprofit called the Fifth Quarter Project. We've talked about it. I don't want to talk about it a lot here, but it's gone more from helping people just transitioning out of their playing days to the rest of their lives. Fifth quarter, as it were. And along the way, I came to realize that we're all in some level of fifth quarter projects.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to use. My tagline for it now is "What's your fifth quarter project?" Because it could relate to people our age, and it does. What you're doing is taking something like that on what I think would be amazing scale. And this is not designed to make a plug for your Epic Encore thing, but I think it makes so much sense because we've lost our way at every level. But if you can pull together people who are looking for an Epic Encore and transitioning. And look, I was a headhunter for 50 years. I know there's a ton of them. I've
Right.
got one book back there on the process, writing another one right now. But you trying to pull people together and create some connection over whatever it happens to be, commonality will help us remove some of the guards we have about whatever, Ted. I mean, you gave me a list one day, loss of identity and sense of purpose and all those things that you discussed and talked about. So things like that are so important also because, you know, I'm old, but I ain't dead, and there's
Yeah.
still lots to offer. Again, I'm mentoring a young man right now who's 25 years old, Stanford engineer, and he's just so grateful for the camaraderie and the perspectives. And so we have much to offer, but there have to be forums for it. And you can't, you shouldn't, I don't want to say you can't. Digging a hole to say I am lonely or I did feel loss of purpose is what you're trying to work against, because what's that line? The best way to, the best way to get out of a hole is to stop digging,
Hmm.
right? And so that this epic encore concept, I'm going to interview you about it one time, is brilliant, and I think this what we're doing may be a contributing to from a or maybe a subject idea,
Yeah.
this husbandry, but the overarching thing is just important because connection. Because as my friend Ted Prodromou said, the opposite is disconnection.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
from talking to hundreds of men that have recently retired or are thinking of it, their biggest fear is isolation.
there you go. There you go. And
Yeah.
it was ironic you told me that. And ironically, here on the other side of the bay, where it's colder, uh, one of my closest friends for years just retired. He was 40 years as the executive director of a really vibrant local nonprofit called Bay Area Community Resources. And he started to talk about it. And he's now doesn't have that job anymore. That was his identity.
Yeah.
He's suffering from it. So he's so glad, that we're going to, and again, mine's a little micro thing, this intentional dinner. But he's so glad we're doing it because he feels it.
Yeah.
And he wants to be more involved, but it's hard to, know who else is in that boat. So you start connecting, you invite people.
Right.
right? And maybe somebody invites somebody else, and then all of a sudden, guys get in the room and maybe talk about husbandry or maybe talk about pottery. I don't know.
Right.
Doesn't matter. The idea is to talk. So again, I just want to give you props for thinking that through and putting it together and all that kind of stuff. So that's my TED infomercial for the day.
Thank you. So
Not
how
at
can
all.
people get in touch with you and learn more about what you're up to?
Say it again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I didn't hear you. No, just kidding.
What'd you say?
Uh, how can people get in touch with you to learn
Oh yeah, yeah,
about
yeah,
what you're up
yeah.
to?
I guess I got better get a husbandry domain, but at the at the moment, we don't have a chat here, but they can they can write to me. Barry Kleiman Barry, what is it? Barry Kleiman at gmail.com or Barry at bckassociates.com. Barry at the fifth quarter project.com. I
There
don't
you
know, Ted.
go.
We got lots of ways to do it. I would put my phone number out. Truthfully, I would, but somehow it's no longer cellular one, but my cell phone, my office phone rejects calls of numbers that are not in the phone book. It puts them into spam. I don't know why that is. Do you know any engineers that could help me figure that
They've
out?
had that problem since I worked there 30 years ago.
So anyway, so yeah, Barry at Barry at even Barry at barrykleiman.com. They're easy to do and be honored, of course, to just put husbandry or something in the subject
Or
and
look you up on LinkedIn.
look at you. The people know you wrote a book on LinkedIn. Yes, LinkedIn is a great is a great avenue, and please do. That's actually a cool idea, right? Because there are even some people have said a lot of people said a lot of nice things about me on LinkedIn over the years, because you've always tried to, you want to connect, you
Right.
want to do that. So yeah, sure, that's a good idea. But
Cool.
again, I really can't thank you enough for certainly this, but for what you're doing overall, because I just think it's I know it's entrepreneur and all that, but it's virtuous in the best of ways, and yeah, so I just think it's amazing. So well, I
Well,
don't know what happens from here, but you're the boss. I'm gonna shut up.
no, thank you so much for being part of the Epic Encore community and one of our faculty members. We appreciate everything you do.
Sure. Well, thank you very much, and we will catch up soon.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in the membership area.